All right, so Saturday morning, January 25th, a passerby actually called 911 to say that they observed a house that was on fire. Child victim cases are the hardest sort of incident for police, fire, EMS to respond to. In this case, we have 3 children that were injured in this fire. To put it lightly, and that's saying something, this is a shockingly cruel, unimaginable crime committed by a mom against her 3 kids. This is a mom that meticulously took all 7 of her smoke detectors and put them in a bag and removed them from the house before she poured lighter fluid all over the house and lit it on fire in an attempt to kill her 3 children. I want to thank the Michigan State Police for their collaboration on this. I want to thank the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, who have been very helpful, especially the Grand Rapids Fire Department. I also want to thank Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, who right now is doing everything they can to save the life of a beautiful, innocent, completely innocent 12-year-old girl who is in extremely critical condition. And they've been working nonstop since this incident happened. And if there's any bright part of this, it is knowing that we live in a city where we've got wonderful people like the people right now who are doing everything they can at Helen DeVos. And I feel very thankful for my family and my kids. And I want to say the same thing about our fire department. We sometimes have a friendly rivalry. And I feel like I don't take enough opportunities to compliment them and how fortunate I feel to live and have my family and my officers working in a city with a group of men and women. The Grand Rapids Fire Department are true heroes. And so what I want to do today is give you some perspective. As you can imagine, at a large fire scene like this, we had many police officers on scene, all with their body-worn cameras going, so we probably have hundreds of hours of footage. But what we did this morning was quickly put together a little bit so that you see the perspective of what our officers saw, and really what our officers saw the fire department dealing with at the time. So Jen, if you'll, this is about a 5-minute clip, and
are there any kids still in the house?
My daughter was in there, yes.
Is she still in there? Where is she? Second floor, what corner? Where's her bedroom? Which corner? Shane, there might be still one kid inside on the second floor.
You want eastern closed in both directions? Confirm, that's from fire. Will do. 18, 15, 19, 12, where do you want to block that? That's more. Okay.
Stay here for me. Kid who might still be inside is Nick. Upstairs. Just one kid in there.
Is there a police unit who's blocking southbound Eastern? In that case, 1818, can you block southbound Eastern Air? Let's say Washington.
I don't think so.
We're talking about the fire on Eastern, yes, they are for everyone to raise.
I'd like to point out that even as those firefighters were carrying her down the ladder, you could still see the flames coming from the first floor. And even when the firefighters were walking in the second floor in the back, you could see not only the first floor fully engulfed, but the smoke so thick that I'm sure you could see more than an inch in front of your face. So again, this is just an unimaginably horrific case. It was difficult to watch, even though I've seen this video before. I don't know if you believe in the power of prayer. I do. I'm praying for this little girl at Helen DeVos Children's Hospital. Big thanks to the heroes in our fire department. I'm going to turn it over to Prosecutor Becker and then to the Fire Chief Brown.
Yeah, my job's relatively simple here. We have filed the charges against the mother, Roconda Singleton. We have charged her with one count of arson in the first degree. That is a felony with a maximum penalty of life in prison and a $20,000 fine. We've also charged her with 3 counts of child abuse in the second degree. Child abuse in the second degree is also a felony, punishable by a maximum of 10 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. She is presumed innocent of these charges until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. At this time, I don't have any information on when she will be arraigned at the court, but essentially what first-degree arson is there is an intentional setting of a fire at a dwelling that caused an injury. And so the child abuse charges kind of go along with that. It's like knowingly and intentionally committing an act likely to cause physical or mental harm, and don't even have to actually prove there was mental harm, just an act that is likely to cause physical or mental harm. And so the instance of setting a home on fire with the children in it is the basis for the child abuse second charges. We'll see this case go through the criminal justice process. She should be arraigned, and we'll see a PCC within a week. So I would anticipate it would happen relatively quickly. So I'll turn over to the fire chief and let him talk.
Well, it's been a rough week for our city, difficult week for both the police and fire departments. It's hard to describe what our people see when they pull up to a scene. Normally we're battling flames, not other things that stand in our way. I can tell you this fire progressed very rapidly from what we would normally see on the first floor, and even all the black smoke billowing out on the second floor is unburned fuel. So our members place themselves directly in harm's way to save a life. That's what we take an oath to do, and that's what we did. Unfortunately, the 12-year-old sustained some smoke inhalation, some critical injuries. They're in grave condition at this point. Couldn't be prouder of the men and women of the Grand Rapids Fire Department, and like to thank our brothers and sisters in blue. All week we've had to work hand in hand on multiple incidents. Again, we were able to assemble a huge effective firefighting force within minutes in the core of the city. Ultimately, we had 13 units on scene comprised of 42 personnel. That's the vast majority of rigs in the city of Grand Rapids at one point or another made their way through this fire. And as you can see, we had multiple things going at the same time. We had 4 separate teams searching, 2 different crews doing fire attack, ventilation, water supply, and medical out in the front yard for any victims that we found. So hats off to the highly trained men and women of the Grand Rapids Fire Department, and thoughts and prayers to all those impacted. Back over to you, Chief.
Obviously, the criminal investigation is coming to a conclusion, but we haven't quite yet started with that process, so there's only so much I can talk about as far as that goes. But if you have any questions that I can't answer or that I can pass off, I'm one of these 2 gentlemen, happy to entertain them at this time.
Winston, our ground chief, was that the 12-year-old girl that they were administering CPR to?
That is correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure. And you said she sustained inhalation, smoke inhalation. Obviously, she was unconscious, cardiac, something going on there.
Yes.
What else were those extent of those grave injuries? What could you explain?
At this point, it's burn injuries, has some inhalation injuries as well. And anytime you're in that type of environment, it's life or death. And so we were able to achieve ROSC, return of spontaneous circulation, en route to the hospital. And as Chief Winstrom said, Helen DeVos has done an amazing job doing everything they can to give this little girl the best chance that she could have.
Is she still in ICU?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
potentially we could have a different type of charge coming down if she succumbs to her injuries.
Sure, I mean, based on all the facts, if anything else happens, we'll take a look at that. But yeah, definitely could be additional charges should things take a turn for the worse.
Were the kids, I think this is for you, Chief Windsor, were
Sure.
the kids intentionally locked inside? Neighbors I spoke with said that they could hear them yelling in the house.
Right, that's a
"Mommy, mommy,"
preliminary investigation points to that she was attempting to keep them inside, yes.
with furniture blocking or with doors locked or?
I don't have all that information, so I don't know yet.
Does she have a history with GRPD?
She does have a history with GRPD. I don't believe she has an extensive criminal history, but she was familiar to some of the officers on scene.
What about a mental health file that you're aware of?
That I'm aware of, I believe that could come into place, but I haven't seen it myself.
But she does have one?
I have not seen it, and I can't confirm that.
Okay.
Is there any motive as to why she did this?
I cannot fathom any motive at all. I know Megan just was asking questions about mental health. That's the first thing I go to, that there's mental health issues. I think that's something that will probably play out throughout the criminal justice process, but there's nothing. I mean, this is a mom who tried to murder her 3 beautiful little daughters. I have no idea.
And any idea how she started the fire? It looked like if that was her in the beginning of the video.
It was
looked
her.
like she wasn't injured at all. How did
Yeah,
she
she
get
was,
in?
I believe we took her just to get checked out, and she used lighter fluid. She
Okay.
poured lighter fluid all over upstairs, all over downstairs. I think she covered the couch in lighter fluid, and that's a pretty effective way to start a fire.
Where was the
Just-
bag?
Uh,
Where was the bag of,
Smoke
The
detectors?
bag of smoke detectors, I believe, was in the backyard. In fact, while watching the body-worn camera video of some of the cameras, you could see officers walking by. You can hear the beeping.
What's the injuries of the younger 2 children?
Younger 2 children are not sustaining life-threatening injuries. I believe they both had smoke inhalation. They were both transported to the hospital at this time, but I do know, reviewing the body-worn camera, that our officers and firefighters were having conversations with them at the scene. So I think their prospect for recovery is very good.
Has a victim support services been involved with the children, or able to tell us just kind of what that's looked like?
Yeah, well, number one, so CPS is involved because the mother, they were living with the mother. Obviously, she's in county jail, and she tried to kill them, so that's no longer the circumstances. So CPS is involved. Their father is very much engaged in their life. Their father came out that night to the hospital, but also CPS is involved, and they have that process. We have victim support services here at the Grand Rapids Police Department as well. The ATF has been on this journey with us throughout the investigation. They've also activated their victim support services, which they do for fire victims as well. So not only that, but we've already heard here at the police department from some of our local community activists and their efforts to sort of muster up support for these little girls who are going to need a lot of support.
Chief Winstrom, how many calls were made to that house prior to the incident? Have you guys had not even visits with her, but that house?
We probably, we probably have those numbers, but I don't believe that house was on our radar as far as, a problem house or a trouble house, something that we're familiar with. I do know that one of the officers that was there had knew her by name and face, and that was vice versa. So I knew they had reacted with each other before, but I don't really think that there's that much of a history for that location.
And Chief Brown, I mean, 7 smoke detectors makes me think potentially that she might have been one of the people that utilized GR Fire going through and installing smoke detectors. Did you guys have any presence there at any point?
Could be. Again, we haven't pulled the records to go back through. We didn't have a strong history at that address either. It wasn't a known address to us, but it is a possibility. Yeah.
Was Dad wasn't home at the time?
Correct. Yeah, and I don't believe Dad lives at that residence. Right.
Were all of the girls in the same location in the house? If 2 of them are okay, was one upstairs, the other 2 downstairs?
Right. It seemed like at least 2 were upstairs, and one of them climbed out the window at one point in time, and then back in. So the short answer is they were at different locations. Yes.
And the 12-year-old, where was she?
She was upstairs. I'm not sure. Maybe Chief Brown knows exactly where she was.
Just
recovered.
in one of the front rooms. Again, we had multiple teams doing a vent-enter search, diving in the front windows, and as you saw, she came out of the Alpha Delta corner onto the porch. So, yeah, she was in that room.
Was the 12-year-old the last one to leave the house, the last of the girls?
That's correct. And I mean, to say the last to leave, you could see on the last video that she's carried down. She appears to be very much unconscious, carried down by a firefighter. Some of the videos that I showed before, you see obviously the officer that's running through the snow trying to get information from the mom, and then the in-car camera where you just kind of see the overall view of the fire, and you see those flames that are coming out, 5-10 feet, just flames extending from the house. And knowing that that little girl was upstairs in that bedroom the entire time that those videos were taking place is just unimaginable is the only way I can describe it. Watching that in retrospect and knowing that she's up there is devastating to see.
Does it anger you as first responders, and this is for the police department and the fire department, just to know that your people were put in harm's way for this act as well?
From the police side of things, and the fire definitely was more in harm's way in this case. It's difficult to focus on anything other than this 12-year-old girl. These men and women of the fire department did a phenomenal job, and to see them going in and do what they did, it's amazing. But they're trained for it, and we're trained to almost be comfortable with the fact as police officers that at any point in time during the job I may have to be hurt or hurt someone else. Being a 12-year-old, this just should not be anything that anyone's ever contemplated in the world, of that my mom is going to start the house on fire while I'm asleep in the bed upstairs. So I think for us, I can speak for us, there's some level of recognition that we sort of accept some dangers in our job. And for me, I'm not going to speak for him, but I'll tell you, we're just focused on this little girl right now. But I'll let you say something too, Brad. Sorry.
Yeah. This was no different than the other 2 fires we had previous in the week. As far as how we operate, we always assume someone's inside. We always take an aggressive approach. We always put ourselves in harm's way to do what we can. So for us, back to Chief Winstrom's point, we're focused on the little girl. This is what we get paid to do, and we do a darn good job of it. So.
Do we know if CPS has a file on them, or there's a previous
No, there's nothing CPS. I think when you look at the reports I have, it's a mental health issue. I mean, I think that's what's going to come out, and we'll see it play out. But a lot of the calls that they were getting and so forth were mental health related for mom. So, but there's nothing, no prior child abuse, nothing prior that would indicate she's went through some issues, and don't know exactly what those are. But it does appear that there's going to be some sort of mental health issue going on here.
Does that impact how you proceed with charges or how you charge?
No, it doesn't proceed how we charge. It proceeds on what we can do, what could happen. I mean, generally there's a forensic exam to see if she's even competent. That's usually the first barrier, and then if she is established as being competent, then is there legal responsibility? That's where you find the insanity defense, or see if she's not guilty by reason of insanity. But that's a long process, and that takes quite a long time right now, especially with there's quite a backup in the Center for Forensic Psychiatry, where we send the people for evaluations. So it's a long time to get first the competency evaluation, and then assuming that goes through, then the legal insanity determination. So it's going to be a long process and a long path, if you will.
My last question, did she own the home? You know?
That's a good question. I have no idea. Anybody else have a last question since I botched that one? Yes.
We can see her briefly in the video, at least partially answering questions.
Right.
Can you speak to, was she concerned for the children? They were on scene, was she there when they were?
I'll just say from what I saw, there was not the concern that you would expect from a mom whose children were in danger.
Is she lucid?
Seemed to be coherent as far as I could say, but like I said, there's hours and hours and hours of video. There's probably some that I haven't seen, and certainly a lot of people have spoken to her since then. So it's yeah.
Drugs or alcohol?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah.
This is not necessarily focused on the girl, but for first responders that were on scene, do you guys now have therapists that come in? If you hear little kids crying from inside, I can only imagine the trauma that you're dealing with after the fact.
Yeah. So we have a critical incident stress management team. We have a department chaplain. We have a Fire Strong program. And frankly, what helps us usually the most is sitting around the kitchen table with our fellow brothers and sisters and talking through this. Those are screams that will probably live on in many of our heads the rest of our lives. And it's important for us to know how to deal with those. So when we come back to do the job the next day, we're ready to go.
Are you talking about screams specifically from this case?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Everybody's good?
Anybody else?
I think
All
we're
right.
good.
Thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
Good to see you. Sorry, I was chatting with Jen when she came in, so I was like, oh, thank you. Good, pretty good today.